Okay, so I'm going to be doing a quick guide on how to use Hobbit speedrun tools to practice effectively and to do some labbing tricks with it. So Hobbit speedrun tools, you can download it from the link in the description. It's probably already installed on your computer if you used Hobbit installer to get the Hobbit. It's a tool made for practicing and labbing in the Hobbit more efficiently. So in the bottom left of my video here, you'll see the Hobbit speedrun tools tool. And in the top right, you'll see the actual game that we're working with here. All right, so the first thing in Hobbit Speedrun Tools that might interest you as a new runner is the Save Manager here. The Save Manager is going to replace the saves that you have in your game. Don't worry, it backs up your old saves and restores them once you're done. It's going to replace those saves with some saves that are made for practice. So over here we can do, for example, a save collection M Karma and MG levels, and this is just all the levels as they would be in NMG. So for example, we'll take Trollhole here, and if we go in game, and we just refresh the menu by going to something else, we'll see we have that Trollhole save there. And the nice thing is when Hobbit Speedrun Tools replaces your save, it makes the new save the only save there is. So it's always at the top of the list, and you can just quickly hit load. If I swap this, for example, to Riddles, and I hit load, you'll see we have this. And it might say Overhill, but that's because it's at the end of Overhill, and it just loads into Riddles right away. All right, so that's the Save Manager, pretty straightforward. You see we have some other categories here. You can also add your own saves to this, but you'll have to read up on that on the GitHub page that's linked in the description. That's a little much to go into for this video. Okay, let's go back to Trollhole. So that's a good level for showing off some of the cheats that we're going to be having, because Hobbit Speedrun Tools comes with some cheats that are very interesting. Now I'm going to skip over developer mode for now. We'll come back to that. But let's see infinite jump attack. So you can just toggle them on by hitting the checkbox next to them. And you'll see in the bottom, or sorry, the top left of the Hobbit, you see it says cheats IJA. That stands for infinite jump attack. So that means the cheat is active right now. And what this does is it's just going to allow you to keep jump attacking without having to wait for the 10-second cooldown. Very useful if you're having trouble with maybe Trollhole here, and you just want to keep trying it without having to wait for the cooldown every time. Anyway, next we have render low triggers and render other triggers. You can turn those both on. And as you can see, these white triggers are the other triggers. Those will do various things like show text boxes, and sometimes they'll have some small effects like moving an enemy. But what is most interesting is they can have other effects. Like over there, you can see the end trigger of Trollhole in white, and there's also a low trigger in there in yellow that doesn't really matter. So yeah, these are useful for figuring out where certain triggers are. Next up is render polycache. This is just going to show you what the geometry around you looks like. So we see, oh, the save, the collision of it is actually like this. There's an invisible wall here that's this high. But most important, in my opinion for this, is it shows you geometry of slopes. So when you're practicing a slope boost, you can just see, oh, well, I just boosted off the gray and green slopes over there. So that's what I'm trying to aim for. Invincibility speaks for itself. You can't die other than drowning and voiding out. Normal damage or fall damage will not kill you. Automatically reset signs over here is for riddles in the dark. When you do the minecart section, the signs will be remembered even after quitting out normally, which will have to make you restart the whole game. But if you turn this on, they will automatically be reset. Lock clip warp is going to keep your clip warp position where it is. We'll come back to that later. Infinite ring, infinite rocks, and infinite keys speak for themselves. These are mainly useful for practicing all quests. Then, going back to the main sheet, the actual most interesting one here is developer mode. Now, when you turn on developer mode, you won't see anything change right away. But if you hit tilde on your keyboard, which is usually below your escape key, you'll pull up the developer menu. I'm going to close that with escape. What you can also do is hit escape to go into your options, and now click system menu here. This is a new option that appears when you toggle on developer mode. It's going to open up that same menu. So in this menu, we have a bunch of features. Most of these features, they're a little awkward to get to, so they're actually built into HST. You'll see invincibility or invulnerability on here, for example. But one that interests us is save to memcard. When you hit that, you hit enter on it, and you hit escape to close the developer menu. You'll see you just have to save game prompt, and you can do this anywhere. So if I hit save game now, I can just load into the save that's over here, and it's very useful for practicing stuff. because you can just set a save wherever you want. You won't have to go from the last save point as well. Another thing that's interesting is when you have developer mode on, you can hit Control plus F on your keyboard. And that's going to put Bilbo in this flying state. In this flying state, you can hit A on your keyboard to go up, D on your keyboard to go down, W to go forward, and S to go backwards. And you can use this to get to places easily, to quickly test stuff. And once you hit Control F again, you'll go out of fly mode. Be careful with fly mode. Some normal triggers, so for example, if I hit other triggers here, if you go through them, they will actually stop you from flying. It's quite annoying and they'll drop you down. But just know that sometimes fly mode fails and it's annoying and it's something you just have to deal with. Okay, another thing in fly mode is when you're flying around, you can actually hold N on your keyboard to go into the no clip mode. And that means you can just go through objects, but only when you hold N as well. So those are the main cheats and how to use them. Now let's go over into the segment timer. The segment timer is there just to practice your segments or to lab out what might be fastest. This one comes with different modes. We have the timer over here, the best time, the average time. These three speak for themselves. And then under mode, you have off, full level, or move to point. Now full level kind of speaks for itself. We might pick troll hole here. And if we load into troll hole now, I'm just going to delete that save I made earlier. We'll see that the timer in the top left starts going up, and we are being timed on our performance right now. Now I'm just going to cheat and flash the end trigger because I'm out of practice and I just missed. But what you see in HobbitSpeedrunTools, it stopped just now and it says 11.834. That's the time we got, and that shows up at the best time. Now it shows the best time, which will update if you improve your time. It also shows the average time. So if we were to run this again, and we do it way faster by just cheating right away, you'll see that the average time will go down as well. And that's good for maybe if you're trying to reach a certain goal and you know which times you need on levels, just to figure out if you can get that time on average. More interesting though, for most people, I think, is not just the full level mode, but the move to point. Move to point is going to allow you to practice smaller segments of a level and have them be timed accurately. How move to point works is simple. What I recommend you do is find yourself a starting point. For example, here at Overhill and Underhill, we might want to practice the movement from the start, and then use developer mode to set a save at your starting point. Then just go over to where you want to time. So maybe I want to time until we get here, and now just Alt-Tab out, and it's set on the endpoint button that has appeared here. This is going to mark Bilbo's current location as the endpoint where our timing will end. So now if I hit load game and I start moving, sorry, not if I hit load game. The way this segment timer works is it wants you to quick reload when you use move to point. And that's a feature in HobbitSpeedrunTools. If you just hit Control R on your keyboard, think of it as Control Reload, you see Bilbo quickly voids out and just gets put back at his last save. So you hit Control R after you set your endpoint, and you see once you start moving, the time starts going up. And now you can time your movement on this segment. So, for example, I did that in 5 seconds just now by doing that movement with just slash jump. Maybe you're interested in doing this with different movement, so you can reload, and maybe you do the moose movement into doing that properly. Maybe you do the moose movement into the jump attack that Shockster likes to do. And you see, hey, that was actually quite a bit faster. I just did that in 4 seconds. And yeah, you know. So yeah, this is super useful for just testing the kind of small movement thing. Another setting you get here is point radius, which is just how big the endpoint is. You can mess around with that. I think 100 is already pretty generous. Okay. Next, some things that are useful for labbing is the info display. So you see that in the bottom middle there in HobbitSpeedrunTools. And maybe you are a new runner and you have trouble with the barrel's tree clip, like a lot of people do. And you're messing around with this and you can't figure out why you can't get it consistently. Then the info display is a very good resource. So maybe you're doing the setup and you do it here and you notice, oh, that didn't work. Well, if you do that, what you can do is you can look at the info display and see Bilbo's exact position right now. So on this setup, I see I'm around minus 1390. and I'm around minus 1930 in the, 1390 in X, minus 1930 in the Z axis. For this trick, the Y axis, the one in the middle, that's Bilbo's height, isn't that important. So now you know, okay, this doesn't work. Maybe I'll try going to the right more. Now you see I'm almost at minus 1400 in the X axis, and in the Z axis, I'm closer to minus 1920. And if I do my input properly, you'll see that that setup should actually work, but I'm out of practice, so take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, there we go. And now you notice, okay, well, if I go to about minus 1400 and about minus 1920, and I do it properly, it should work. So then you can work off of that. You can go to minus 1400 and minus 1920, and you can look around. Okay, what am I seeing right now? What texture is Bilbo's left foot on? How do I know that my angle is good? For the angle, by the way, anything between 295 and 300 around works here for me. And that's all stuff you can use to help figure out how you can do a trick more structured instead of just, trial and error. All right, last thing that's useful for labbing is the clipboard position on the input info display. And as you know, every 2 seconds you stand on the ground roughly, your clip warp position will update, and you see that happen here too. It's updating, it's updating. It's a little weird if you're like walking continuously. I'm not entirely sure why it updates more frequently then, but once you start walking from airborne, it'll update after about 2 seconds. Anyway, the clip warp position display is just going to show you where your last clip warp is. So if you're practicing maybe all quests and you want to hold your clip warp, you can look there and you can see, oh, is my clip warp still set after I skip through these cutscenes? And yeah, it is. And this also ties into another shortcut we have for HSD, which is if you hit Control G, it's just going to return you to your last clip warp position, which is also good for testing if you don't have a spot to get stuck on. Finally, the lock clip warp button here, what that's going to do is it's just going to lock your clip warp position where it is. So right now it's at minus 1631 and some other stuff. And when I hit lock clip warp and I move around, you see that that doesn't update even when I stand on the ground a lot. So that's good for testing clip warps if you don't want to lose your clip warp position because it's just testing anyway. All right, I'll leave you with one more shortcut you can use, which is Control T. And Control T is just going to reset the level from the beginning. Now, mind you, this might not reset everything in the level, so be mindful of that when you're practicing, but it can be good when timing certain segments if you want to start like a starting cutscene as well. So that's roughly how HSD works. There's also some config. You can change the shortcuts in there, and the help key will just take you to the GitHub page where you can read up on the stuff I just mentioned more. I hope that helped, and good luck running.